everybody, and welcome to the Alex Plus the Daily Show. How is everybody doing? It is Thursday, February 17th of 2022. Before we get into any of the fun stuff, as always, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes, and always tell people that this is the greatest show you ever heard. Spread word of mouth. Let people know that this is fire. This is exactly what you want to hear all the time. The Alex Quest The Daily Show. It should be in your cars. It should be on your phones. It should be everywhere you can be so you can listen to all the great articles that I talk about and all the information that I delve out to you because it's important stuff. So it should be done. So let's get going right away. Social media, as always, the Alex Quest The Show. Go search it anywhere you can find social media. And we're going to jump right into the Biden COVID tracker. So we are on the 17th of February, and the cases are now up to 78,140,103. That's an uptick of 115,700. So low 100,000s again. So slowly but surely starting to trend down there. The deaths are at 928,266. That's another 3,205 dead. That's a lot. That's still a lot in that category. So we had it dipping down under 3,000 for a little bit in the 2000s, but now it seems to be progressively ticking back up. So again, Joe Biden is a failure when it comes to this policy on getting COVID under control. He came in with the plan. His plan has failed mightily. And no, Joe Biden, we don't accept that you want us to live under your new normal. Because the new normal doesn't mean what everyone thinks it means. It doesn't mean just dealing with the virus, living with the virus, having similar protocols and what we did when people had flu, stay home when you're sick. If you get contagious, a certain amount of people, you let everybody know, yada, yada, yada. No. The new normal that people like him are calling for are things that the World Economic Forum wants. Things like that, ESG scores, digital passports, digital currency, those type of things are the new normal that they're going to really want us to accept. And you remember the Well Health Safety Seal? Where the hell did that go? That was a big deal during the pandemic, right? When it first got into like all of it, all these celebrities, if you see the Well Health Safety Seal, that means that this is a safe place to shop. Blah, 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 blah. Where did that go? We might see that pop up again at some point soon. No, don't doubt it. But it was all about money. That was Expose It. That was all about money. That, yeah, if you gave enough money to this organization that did the Well Health Safety Seal, they would slap it on your door. Celebrities would say it was safe, and then you can get patronized during the pandemic. It was a scam. Just like everything about this right now is a scam by the government, especially looking what's going on in the North with Justin Trudeau and Canada, which is an absolute travesty. And I covered that a little bit yesterday about what they were trying to do to small business owners and what they're still trying to do to small business owners that dare to support the Freedom Convoy. But we're going to shift gears. That was the Biden COVID tracker. He's not doing well, still not doing well. Remember, he started off with 24,496,018 cases and 401,823 deaths from January 20th, 2021, when he assumed power. We're now into over 900,000 deaths, 78 million infected. Not doing a good job. He's overseen this absolutely terribly. And there's just no other way to sugarcoat it. He's not doing well. But I want to talk to you guys about some cool things. This can be considered maybe an environmental episode, which is, I think a lot of people would think is rare coming from me. I'm not against the environment, just so everybody knows. I'm not against recycling. I'm not against trying to do what we can to make this world last a little bit longer, to, treat it right. It does give us everything that we need. It's provided us life. It has the perfect ecosystem for us to survive. If, any little difference here or there, we may not exist. We won't exist. So there is reason to want to protect the planet. Now, if you could see through the bullshit that a lot of the green stuff is, that is a market created by Al Gore to make money, and it's done very well. That is lucrative. That is hypocritical bullshit. When he's flying around on private jets to go to climate conferences where they're all flying around on private jets and getting into SUVs to get everywhere they need to go. Yeah, no, it's not real. The way that they describe the climate challenge isn't real. But the main article I want to talk about is on the environment. But one of the articles I want to touch on that I think everybody should go out and read because it's something cool. It's from BGR.com, which admittedly, I have no idea what the fuck BGR.com is, but they had this cool article here: Revolutionary New Solar Panels Don't Need Sunlight to Generate Energy by Joshua Hawkins. It was written yesterday, the 16th. And a student from the Philippines has figured out a way to, let me get this correct because I don't want to screw it up in the explanation. So he's creating different solar panels that are extremely flexible and different, and he's using luminescent particles from fruit and vegetable waste, and they're the same particles that absorb the sun's ultraviolet rays and turn them into visible light. And he uses the particles to create a solar film capable of capturing ultraviolet rays and converting the rays into visible light, which is used to generate energy. Meaning, this kid has created a prototype for solar panels that do not need direct sunlight to continue to gain energy. All they need is UV rays. UV rays shine through clouds on dark days. UV rays are in a minute way trickling in through the moon and trickling in all the time. Like, UV rays are constantly coming down. So it's a cool way to maybe get more out of solar. Obviously, I think he said it's harnessing. It's a 3x2 foot panel he has right now, and it's powerful, charging 2 phones a day right now. It's very infantile. It's not reliable, but it is a start of energy. And I said UV comes from the moon. I don't know if that happens. It probably doesn't. So don't check me on that. Fact checkers are going to be like, he's wrong. I don't know. All I know is the moon reflects sunlight, and that's why we get the moonlight. So I'm assuming reflecting some sunlight, you might get some UV there, maybe not enough to make energy, but who knows? But the overall thing is, this is a cool revolutionary thing. This is not gigantic solar panels that are used. They use tons of fossil fuels to create them. They use giant factories that use up a ton of energy, which they're supposed to say is super dirty, to create all this stuff. And then when one goes wrong and breaks, who the fuck knows where it's going to be stored, how it's going to be disposed of, if it's recyclable. And then you have to build a new one, put a new one in, not to mention cost of doing this stuff and space that you need in order to create these giant, ugly ass panels. So there is a lot that goes into solar currently, but if something like this is a prototype, but if something like this can get improved, because again, this is in the Philippines, bring this to the United States and let the United States get a hold of it. Let some of the entrepreneurs get a hold of it. And, obviously, hopefully this kid patents it, and anything that's based off of it can kind of be given royalties back to him, because he's truly created something that is possibly revolutionary, because all the renewables we have kind of suck right now. And we're going to talk about that in the next article. But this could be something breakthrough. It's solar, but it's also a lot better than what we currently have solar-wise. So keep a lookout for what's going on there. Go read that article. It's an interesting article, and it's rather objective, which is nice to see. It's not super climate change bullshit in your face. Pretty objective. So we're going to jump into the article that I want to talk about today, though. It is from Politico, and it is written by Benjamin Storrow. It was written today, the 17th. And the title is 3 States with Shutter Nuclear Plants See Emissions Rise. The closures are forcing difficult choices about the use of natural gas as renewable energy fails to ramp up fast enough. So that byline pretty much doesn't lie. Let's go with the article here. New York passed a law in 2019 requiring the state to eliminate carbon dioxide emissions from power plants by 2040. But over the last 2 years, the exact opposite has happened. CO2 from power plants has climbed nearly 15%, according to EPA data. New York's experience is hardly unique. In neighboring New England, where 6 states are united by a single electricity market, power emissions are up 12% over the last 2 years, and Pennsylvania emissions from electricity generation have grown 3%. So let's correct that right there. 3 states with shutter nuclear plants, that's pretty misleading. You're talking about New York, the New England area, which is 6 states, and Pennsylvania. So that's 8 states. If they're including, that is 8 states that they're talking about, not 3. A misleading title from here. So if you're listening to this, Mr. Benjamin Storrow, please fix your misleading title. It's not 3 states. So let's go. The rise in emissions follows the closure of 3 nuclear facilities in Massachusetts, New York, and Pennsylvania since 2019. While all 3 states have expanded their renewable energy generation, natural gas has largely filled the void left by shuttered nuclear facilities, prompting emissions to rise. So what is that an admittance right thereof? Nuclear is the cleanest, most powerful, most energy efficient way to create energy that we have ever created. And it works extremely, extremely well. So morons in Massachusetts, New York, and Pennsylvania decide to close down 3 nuclear plants. And What happened? They have expanded their renewables, and that should take up the place, right? Your hydro, your wind, your solar. We're told they're amazing and they're renewable, but they rely on wind blowing. They rely on the sun shining. They rely on a high level of water consistent, which we know from climate, we know from the earth, we know from weather is not reliable. So what's going on? Natural gas, which is clean and plentiful form of a fossil fuel, has picked it up because it is a good source of energy, and it's cheap and it's clean in terms of the fossil fuels. So it said prompting emissions to rise. Sure, it's going to rise because you have to meet the need of something that was doing what these two do in its sleep. Let's keep going. The increase is further fueling a raging debate within climate circles over the role of nuclear power in the transition to zero carbon grid. Some researchers argue nuclear provides a reliable source of emissions-free power that can complement wind and solar. Look at this here. If you'll read the article, they are always talking about nuclear being a complement to wind and solar, not wind and solar basically existing and nuclear being the main, which is what France is turning to. And France's grid is fucking fantastic. But no, we're talking about that. And there was another article I read, which I mentioned that people should read, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, where they were talking about all the countries around the world, your Russia, your China, France, certainly all these countries are turning to nuclear. UK, I think, is building up its nuclear as well, because they are noticing these renewables suck and they don't work. Let's keep going with the article. If the goal is that we're moving to 100% zero carbon electricity, said Melissa Lott, director of research at Columbia University Center on Global Energy Policy, closing zero carbon resources doesn't make a lot of sense. We're just digging the hole deeper. Others see nuclear as a short-term climate fix at best. They note that recently closed plants were plagued by operational issues and that they point to an exorbitant price of building new nuclear facilities. While some Greens have grudgingly embraced a collection of state deals to keep struggling nuclear plants open in recent years, they say such rescue efforts should be tailored to well-operating facilities. So let's stop here. They're badly operated, so fix the fucking operating procedure. You can always rewrite SOPs. You can always fire people that are doing it wrong and get people to run it right. That is such a bullshit excuse. And talking about the exorbitant price of building new nuclear facilities, so you're telling me the United States of America can't build new state-of-the-art nuclear facilities, but Russia can, but China can, but the UK can, but France can continually do it? No, you want to spend your fucking money on wind and solar and hydro, which suck and don't work. You want to keep wasting money on a less powerful, a less efficient, a less good, for lack of a better term, source of energy. All for a narrative. Let's keep going. I have been convinced by the point that nuclear provides a lot of greenhouse gas benefits, said Ben Inskeep, a policy analyst at EQ Research, a clean energy consulting firm. However, I still have a lot of concerns about subsidizing a legacy industry that, perhaps in many places, does not need additional financial incentives to keep those power plants open today. So yeah, Ben Inskeep admitted that nuclear is good for their whole entire stupid fucking net zero goal, but he doesn't want to subsidize a legacy industry. So that's a little Marxism talking there. A lot of these people on the left are all freaking Marxists and crazy leftists, these environmentalists and stuff like that. So that's a little bit of his Marxism there. I don't want to do a legacy industry. I don't want to keep these big money industries going. And in many that perhaps many places may not need it, perhaps, meaning you have no fucking clue what you're talking about when it comes to that. So let's keep going here. The debate over nuclear is unfolding amid the rapid evolution of America's power sector. The advent of fracking and horizontal drilling unlocked a wave of cheap gas over the last decade, prompting coal plants to retire en masse. Carbon emissions fell as a result. But low-priced natural gas has been a challenge for nuclear plants too, especially in states where companies compete to sell their electricity in wholesale power markets. So hold on there. There's something hidden in that paragraph that's fucking hilarious. So what have we heard? Fracking, bad. Horizontal drilling, bad. This is really bad. You're continuing to use fossil fuels. Fracking can destroy things. It can really mess up the environment. But let's go here and let's read. Fracking and horizontal drilling have unlocked a wave of cheap gas the last decade, prompting coal plants to retire en masse. Carbon emissions fell as a result. So I'm sorry. Your goal is carbon emissions to fall. You're saying that fracking and horizontal drilling help carbon emissions fall. Doesn't hurt them. So what is the big deal against them? That has to beg the question. Why have they worked to shut down fracking and drilling so much? It's because it's a narrative. These people are invested financially in these quote unquote renewables working and getting a lot of money from the government to do it. Let's keep going. That has prompted a series of state-level nuclear rescue efforts. Connecticut, Illinois, New Jersey, and New York have offered financial support to struggling nuclear facilities in the name of preserving jobs and taming emissions. A group of academics and activists are now pressing California regulators to reconsider plans to shutter the state's last nuclear facility in 2025. So again, admission, nuclear is the way to go. This is them admitting it, that this is the way to go. And you see all the states they mentioned, Connecticut, Illinois, New Jersey, New York. They're the ones that have been pushing to shut down nuclear. And now they have to turn to it. And now they have to fix what they fucked up. I live in an area where this happened. They're going to mention Indian Point in this article. I was one of the areas where, I don't know if I got Indian Point energy here, but I know around this general area where I am, Indian Point powered a ton of areas. They have built 2 new steam plants, CPV and Cricket Valley. They're massive plants. They're huge. Cricket Valley is a gigantic campus. The 2 of them combined still can't even do half the energy that Indian Point put out as a nuclear plant. That's what we're working with here. Let's keep, and I think it's steam energy plus it's regular, it's natural gas and stuff to it, those plants too. It's fossil fuel, I believe, as well as steam. Let's keep going. Even Congress has gotten involved. The bipartisan infrastructure package passed last year included $1.2 billion in assistance for nuclear facilities. The ill-fated Build Back Better Act would have gone further still, with the production tax credit for nuclear facilities worth $23 billion. So this begs the question again. If nuclear is so volatile and so bad, why are they trying to throw billions of dollars at it? Because they know that their bullshit doesn't work. They know that it doesn't work, and they need to hedge their bet by making sure nuclear works. And what you see, this is not the first article that I've seen where leftist environmentalists are starting to go, well, maybe we should bring nuclear back and we should reconsider it, because they knew the whole time that this wasn't going to work. The whole goal was to kill fossil fuels, and they haven't been completely successful yet. Because people are still realizing, number one, fossil fuels are completely renewable. They're fucking dead plants. Number two, they really, in the United States, they're not as dirty as people say they are. And number three, Americans are waking up. We're not the problem. It's China, India, these fucking billion people places that don't care, that just build everything and go crazy. They're the ones that we have to worry about. They don't have an FDA. They don't have anything like that. So a lot of people are waking up to the nonsense from these leftists. And again, the same people have been wrong about the environment for the past, since the 70s, at least the 70s. You can go back to global cooling. So they have been wrong about the environment for at minimum 50 years. And that's a minimum. Let's keep going. Critical mass. The rescue efforts reflect a shift in the environmental movement to which nuclear was once anathema. In Illinois last year, many environmental groups supported the climate law that contained subsidies for nuclear and renewables alike, noted Doug Scott, Vice President of Electricity and Efficiency at the Great Plains Institute. A critical mass of the environmental community is adopting reducing carbon as the most important issue, and nuclear energy becomes more important than it was before, Scott said. So yes, again, these people are realizing that they were fucking stupid for the past 20 years. Let's keep going. Michael Wara, a researcher who studies energy policy at Stanford University, said he has observed a similar shift in California, where 79 academics, scientists, and entrepreneurs recently wrote a letter asking state regulators to extend the life of the Diablo Canyon power plant. Keeping the nuclear facility open, they argued, would better position California to meet its climate goals. So I also want to make an aside here. Are we ever going to get an apology for people on the right that have been screaming to high heaven, nuclear, nuclear, nuclear? No, they're not going to do it. And you see now, look at what's going on. The only reason this is getting a shit is because academics and scientists and the wealthy entrepreneurs on the left are finally starting to come back and back nuclear, because they know better. The elites know better. Not the people that worked in these plants, not the people that have worked in energy their whole lives that know it better than they do, not people on the right on radio and things like that understand energy as well, that have done it and have looked into it, have done the research. No. Only because the elite academics are now saying, well, it's worth the risk of nuclear meltdown because we know that we have been lying to people. Keep going. That's a shift from 2016, when Pacific Gas and Electric proposed closing the plant. Many environmentalists, long concerned about Diablo Canyon discharges of warm water into the Pacific Ocean and its location on a geological fault line, embraced the utilities plan. But the calculus changed as the state got battered by drought and wildfire. So yeah, it's located on a fault line. What a big deal in California. Everything in California is located on a fault line. Today, the impacts of climate are so tangible, you can taste it in your mouth, Wara said. It isn't polar bears or something in 2050 about sea level rise. It's now. It's affecting where you want to live, how safe your kids are. So maybe you're willing to take a risk on an old nuclear power plant on a fault line. So let's go back real quick. They're talking about wildfires. And where was that? Drought and wildfires. Drought happens every year there, number one. And the wildfires over the past few times, some of the biggest ones that we heard about were caused by fucking gender reveals. So let's pump our brakes on this. Oh, the environment, climate change, California. Some of the shit was caused by stupid people, which is normal. But let's keep going. The most important people to weigh those trade-offs will be residents of the community of San Luis Obispo, which is home to the plant, Wara said. But so far, it appears to be an academic question. California regulators have shown no indication that they are reconsidering the plan's fate. Yet, as some Greens become more open to I love that, some Greens, they call themselves fucking Greens. What a bunch of weirdo cultists. Anyway, yet as some Greens become more open to the idea of running existing nuclear facilities longer, they cautioned against offering a blank check to nuclear industry. Nuclear facilities are tied in the Northeast for valid reasons, they said. Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant Station in Massachusetts saw its safety rating downgraded by the Nuclear Regulatory Commission in 2015 before the facility was closed for economic reasons in 2019. Indian Point was plagued by worries of a potential of a nuclear accident in close proximity to New York City, and 3 Mile Island in Pennsylvania was the site of the most famous nuclear accident in American history when a reactor partially melted down in 1979. So let me address all those real quick. Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station, it was downgraded its safety rating in 2015, but then for economic reasons, it closed in 2019. I don't know what those economic reasons are. I can't talk about that. But again, the safety rating was downgraded. Again, they don't go into what that means as well. They just put that there. They put those two things there to make those reasons seem plausible. Now, again, was the safety dramatically downgraded? Is it a fixable downgrade? Who knows? Economic reasons, what are they? What are they? Was it too costly to continue to run? Were there not enough employees there? Could they not employ people enough? Were people dropping dead? They don't go into that. So they put these things there and they just expect you to say, although that's reasonable, let's just go along with that. So no, question this shit. Why did they shut down it seems like a perfectly running nuclear plant? Safety rating was downgraded, but to what? And when? I could probably look it up, but I shouldn't have to. You're a reporter. That's the thing. Whenever you question something in these, it's like, oh, look it up, Google it. Fuck that. I don't need to Google it. If you're writing a report, tell me why in your report. Indian Point, it was right here. Indian Point was running just fine, but they're worried about a meltdown or accident because of the proximity to New York City. That's your reasoning? We're worried about the city? Yeah, the city has a ton of people in it, but you know what? Fuck the people that Indian Point serviced and helped out here. No. Let's only worry about the city because New York State is nothing except for New York City, which I'm from New Jersey, so I still believe that. Anything above New York City is upstate to me. I technically live upstate. People over here hate hearing that, but still, it's still a stupid reason for it to want to close it down. And lastly, they talk about 3 Mile Island. Yes, it's famous, but 3 Mile Island was obviously running. It had an accident, but it's fine. The surrounding area, as far as I can remember, there's grass growing, there's things going on. I don't know if people want to live there, but people still went back to work there. They still want to do their thing. So pump your brakes. None of these three needed to be shut down, it seems like. Let's keep going here. Organized retirement. Not all nuclear facilities are under economic distress. Nuclear plants in states where utilities operated as regulated monopolies do not face the same sort of competitive pressure as their counterparts in states with wholesale power markets, Inskeep said. So yes, run as a collective, not as a capitalist system. You hear that there. That is let's run this all as a collective and not let people make money and be capitalist. Keep going. It behooves us to investigate these plants on a plant-by-plant basis to determine where to keep plants open, he said. Yet, the recent closures of plants in Massachusetts, New York, and Pennsylvania underscore their efforts on emissions. In New York, power sector emissions reached 28.5 million tons in 2021, up from 24 million tons in 2019, according to EPA figures. The increased coincided with the shutdown of Indian Point's 2 nuclear units in 2019 and 2021. Now, I'm going to read these numbers to you. I really don't have any idea what they mean in terms of how much the tonnage and reach like that, the power sector tons. Sounds shitty. Don't know if it means all that much. It might mean that to environmentalists. I can't sit here and look at these numbers and go, oh my God, that's terrible, because I really don't know. They're putting it out there as it's a bad thing. So I'm going to take Politico's word, I guess, at this and this reporter's word. But I can't say how bad these numbers actually are. Let's keep going. And if someone can, please explain it to me. In New England, emissions from power plants have risen from around 22 million tons in 2019, the year Pilgrim closed, to 25 million tons in 2021. And Pennsylvania's electricity emissions, which were less than 83 million tons in 2019, stood at 85 million tons last year. The increases are especially notable because they stand in contrast to a national trend. Nationwide, power plant emissions were down 4% between 2019 and 2021, even after accounting for a 7% increase in the electricity emissions last year. So, translation. The rest of the country, which hasn't gone fucking crazy green and shut down a ton of nuclear and revamped their whole entire plant, their whole entire power grid to be green, are doing just fine and dropping. The places that are going insane, going green, taking out nuclear, are losing and making it worse. Surprise, surprise. The leftist environmentalists make things worse. Let's keep going. It also highlights the struggles of northeastern states to build utility-scale renewable projects. This has led to increased gas use. New York experienced an 11% increase in natural gas generation between 2019 and 2020, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. Utility-scale solar more than doubled between 2019 and 2021, but remains less than 1% of the state's total power generation. Yes, because it's bad. Because it sucks. Because it doesn't work well. And so, of course, they turn to the clean, proven, plentiful, cheap source of energy that we know works and doesn't fail. Natural gas doesn't fail. Natural gas never runs out. And it won't run out. Don't let anyone fucking tell you it will. It will not run out. Whenever we get low on one, we find another 200 million gallons somewhere, or whatever it is, a gigantic store. Don't let these environmentalist yahoos lie to you. Believe me, if solar was that great, New York State would 1,000% have more than 1% of the total power generation on it. If they could, it would be 100, but they can't. It's not good enough. We're not there yet. The emissions upswing underscores the need for a careful long-term planning around nuclear plant closures, said Jackson Morris, who leads the climate and energy program for the National Resource Defense Council in the eastern United States. NRDC is willing to support nuclear assistance as a short-term measure to prevent emissions backsliding, providing that states are also investing in renewables and energy efficiency. He pointed to California as an example, noting that the state required its utilities to procure new clean energy technologies to offset the closure of Diablo Canyon. It's about foresight, Morris said. There's no reason that we can't chart a course that would provide enough renewables to allow for organized retirement. So what is this course, though? We can plot a course, but what does that mean? How many acres of land are you going to have to chop down to make solar farms, to make wind farms? How many unnatural dams are you going to have to use to make your hydro work, to provide enough hydro source? These are all questions that they don't answer. It's about foresight. There's no reason why we can't chart a course. And how are you going to control the environment? How are you going to control the weather? I know Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum has a plan for it. I read the man's books. They want to control weather. He admits that it might destroy other places, but he would like to be able to control weather. They already said that the World Economic Forum is providing money for places to experiment on controlling weather. That would be the only way these renewables become reliable, and then it could destroy the rest of the world playing God. Let's keep going. Like other environmental groups, NRDC's support for nuclear has its limits. It largely sees existing nuclear power plants as a stepping stone to low-carbon grid using wind, solar, and batteries. I hate that last one, batteries. Where do batteries go? How do they break down? They are disgusting things. Batteries are not good for the environment, yet these people keep pushing them. You're always told your little C batteries, your D batteries, your car batteries have to be thrown away specifically and returned specifically because they are that bad for the environment with their acid and the components. But we're going to rely on batteries and they're going to tell us that that's green? Out of your fucking minds? Let's keep going. In some states, the emission rebound from power plants may be temporary. New York has moved aggressively to green its grid since the passage of a climate law in 2019. The state contracted to build 4,300 megawatts of offshore wind generation, or about twice the energy capacity of Indian Point. The 2019 climate law eases permitting restrictions for renewable projects, paving the way for some 3,600 megawatts of onshore wind and solar by 2025. And the state is actively working to address transmission bottlenecks that prevent clean power from reaching New York City. So let's talk about this. They threw in the 4,300 megawatts of offshore wind generation, twice the capacity of Indian Point, but like 10,000 times the size of space that it takes up to make these. I did a little quick research. I don't know if it's right, but apparently some company had 23 wind farms or 26 wind farms to have enough windmills to create 4,300 megawatts. If someone could tell me how many windmills or wind farms are necessary to create 4,300 megawatts, let me know. Because if it's a lot, yeah, it might be offshore, but what does that, if you're an environmentalist and you're worried about the climate, what does throwing a whole bunch of metal in the ocean to power some windmills, how's that going to affect the environment? Can't be positive. Can't be good. You're telling me you're not destroying ecosystems and climates by putting unnatural metal into the ground, which I take back the word unnatural. I hate the word unnatural. Everything on this planet is natural anyway, but just taking a whole bunch of metal that wasn't there before and shoving it into the ground offshore, you're telling me that's not going to affect something? You're wrong. So Indian Point is a plant, and now you're going to try and subsidize that plant with a gigantic use of land to make ugly fucking windmills off of shore. That's what you want? And then another 36 megawatts onshore for wind and solar. Again, you're taking up potential farmland. Unless they're going to put them all in swamps. I don't know where they're going to put them, but you're taking up a lot of land for wind and solar. People don't think about that. These farms are gigantic. They take up a lot of land. They take up acreage to power what? One nuclear plant gave you what, 4,300 divided by 2 is 2,150 megawatts. That's a lot of energy from one nuclear plant. So what do you have to do? Build another nuclear plant, and you basically do what they want to do instead of taking up all of this space and using a lot of factories to build this shit, a lot of resources, a lot of fossil fuels and coal to run it to make this stuff, because we're still powering factories off fossil fuels and coal. Anyway, even if New York succeeds in building out renewables, it will have lost valuable time backfilling the power once generated by nuclear. Some researchers say. They argue that new wind and solar generation should be built on the foundation of clean power provided by nuclear. The United States can ill afford a setback in greening the power sector, the only segment of the economy that has shown it can consistently reduce emissions. Lott, the Columbia researcher, noted that the emissions backsliding comes at a time when the world's carbon budget is rapidly waning. In addition to short-term benefits of nuclear, she argued it could complement wind and solar in the future. It provides a source of firm carbon-free power and alleviates some of the costs involved in building a grid run entirely by renewable batteries. Ultimately, Lott said the United States will likely need a mix of technologies to achieve zero power. We need to move away from technology tribalism, where you're just for one thing, she said. That's the conversation we need to move into, but we're not there yet. Again, let's have a conversation. That's the left's biggest byline right now. Let's just have a conversation. Nothing actual productive. And because she's wrong, this professor is wrong. This scientist, whoever the fuck they are, they're wrong. Nuclear is all you need. You look at all the other countries, they're advancing their nuclear technology, their fission technology, while fusion is getting better as well. Once we have nuclear fusion, none of this is necessary. It's all gone. It's all dead. But right now, other countries are making their reactors smaller, faster, safer. They're making them that they can power small places, that they can. Nuclear is becoming a big thing everywhere else in developed worlds. We're the only ones that have decided to not invest in it at all and making it better. We could be, you don't like the old nuclear plants? Fine. Then make them better, make them safer, make them more efficient. No, instead you're wasting your fucking time on windmills, solar panels, and hydro, which have been proven time after time after time since Al Gore lied to everybody in The Inconvenient Truth to be unreliable and not up to snuff to get the job done for the people that we need. So again, this article right here, the beauty of it is the admission of the crazy leftist greenies environmentalists, they call themselves Greens, fucking weirdos, the environmentalist Greens on the left, saying that they have screwed up for the last 20 years, that they have been wrong about wind and solar. Again, they keep on saying that nuclear can be a complement to wind and solar. No, it's going to be the other way around. They know nuclear is the way to go. They know if they were actually honest about carbon zero, they were actually honest about emissions, they would have been saying nuclear this whole time, but they're not. There's a lot of money to be gained in green. It became a giant market. The one thing I have to say about Al Gore, he might be one of the greatest capitalists of all time because he knowingly created the green market, which enriched him beyond the shadow of a doubt. It has enriched so many by pushing the green nonsense. So take this as a nice admission of we're sorry, we've been wrong for a long time. We've denounced nuclear this whole time, even though we have known that it is the best, the cleanest, the safest. But we just needed to make a little bit of money. We lined our pockets a little. Now that the proof is in the pudding here, we could start to admit it. And we're not doing a good job destroying fossil fuels. We're trying, but it's not going well because the rest of the world is still using them happily. And people in the United States are connected and they're not that stupid, contrary to popular belief of these elites. So we'll see more how this goes. It seems like nuclear is on the rise, thank God. We need more nuclear. We don't need less. We need more. And we need to start getting away from this quote unquote renewables because let's everybody repeat after me. Fossil fuels are renewable. And we do it the cleanest in the United States than anywhere else in the world does. So there we go. An admission of an apology letter from Greenie and leftist over there, the Greens. And take it as you will. Enjoy it because it's a rare thing. It doesn't come very often. So that's the end of the show here. As always, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth, social media, The Alex Cuesta Show. Go look it up. You'll find it. Quick programming note. Don't know if there will be a show tomorrow. I am potentially traveling. And if I'm traveling, I'm not taking all my equipment. I do this out of an office in my house, and it's going to stay there. So if that's the case, then you will get the Alex Cuesta Show come Saturday. That will be there, but you will not get a daily for tomorrow. I will pick up the Biden COVID tracker on Monday, and I will pick up the show on Monday if I'm not able to come on tomorrow. If something happens and I'm able to do the show tomorrow, I will. So we shall see. So everyone, I really appreciate everyone listening, y'all. Maybe talk to you tomorrow. Definitely talk to you Monday. Have a good one, everybody.